I'm Rolika Roach, and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. At this time, I invite the Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Wycliffe Smith, to address you.
And welcome to the first press briefing of the recently installed Council of Ministers of the St. Martin United Christian Democratic Coalition. I would like to inform you that the Prime Minister, the Honorable Leona Romeo Marlin, and Minister of Justice, the Honorable Cornelius de Wever, they will not be attending today's press briefing as they're off island on a working visit to Paris. These two ministers will be attending the quadripartite meeting, also known as the Q meeting, which is a high-level annual meeting between the government officials from the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the Republic of France, the government of St. Martin, and the Collectivité of Saint-Martin. The main objectives of the Q meetings are: 1, to identify and discuss cross-border issues and come up with mutually agreed solutions to these situations. 2, to provide status updates on various cooperation topics, as well as ongoing cross-border projects and initiatives. 3, to come up to an agreement on cooperation topics with follow-up action points assigned to relevant parties. And the fourth objective of the Q meetings is to familiarize parties with the relevant focal points and actors responsible for cooperation. This year's Q meeting will be held on Thursday, June 28th in Paris, France, and the government of St. Martin's delegation, consisting of Prime Minister Leona Romeo Marlin, Minister of Justice, Mr. Cornelius de Wever, Head of Foreign Relations, Kalila Peters, Senior Policy Officer at Foreign Relations, Mr. Patrice Gums, Solicitor General Jan Spans, Head of Judicial Affairs, Ministry of Justice, Vijay Yusia, Acting Head of Border Control, Shadira Gijsberta. Let me take this opportunity to introduce, in the absence of the Honorable Prime Minister, the ministers who are sitting here today, and they're going to give a brief synopsis of their ministries, as well as introduce themselves. And I will come back at the end to give also a brief introduction of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Public Health, Social Development, and Labor, the Honorable Emma Lee, to address you. Minister Lee?
I'd like to report briefly. I just returned from a trip to Curaçao, where we're working on cooperation with regards to healthcare throughout the Dutch Caribbean, so Aruba, Curaçao, St. Martin, and as well with the Bess Islands. During the trip, I took an opportunity to meet with the Minister of Finance from Curaçao, Minister Gijsberta. Again, I think it was good because I haven't seen him for a while, to thank him again for the assistance from the Ministry of Finance and the government of Curaçao in terms of securing the financing for the hospital. As you know, roughly half of the money for the new hospital is slated to come from Curaçao from a variety of pension funds and insurance companies, and they actually were, in order to be able to invest outside of Curaçao, they needed the permission of the minister and Council of Ministers from Curaçao in order to do that. And Minister Gijsberta really went above and beyond in terms of expediting that process to ensure that they had the authorities, that the permission that they needed in order to be able to commit to the financing for the new hospital. And so I just paid a courtesy visit again to thank him again for their ongoing support. In our discussion, we talked a little bit about the economic situation of St. Martin, of course, and also of Curaçao. And in that, he relayed to me that Curaçao actually is facing some higher unemployment numbers, in particular with regards to construction workers. Construction companies in Curaçao are reporting that their activities are a bit slow. And so we began a discussion. As a matter of fact, I then took the opportunity to meet with the Minister of Labor, Mr. Koyman, as well, about the possibility of organizing a trade mission, let's say, from St. Martin to go to Curaçao. So many of the companies here have vocalized that they have a hard time finding construction workers. So if within the kingdom we have workers who are looking for construction work, they're already in possession of Dutch passports, and if we are in need of additional construction workers, we're at least beginning the exploratory talks to see, what we could do in terms of bringing workers from Curaçao to help in our reconstruction process. I made it very clear that, we are looking for temporary assistance. We are not looking to import construction workers for the long term, and I think certainly both ministries agreed with that perspective. So I'd like to go a little bit into the the health conference. So this was as you know, previously there was good cooperation, in particular between Aruba, Curaçao, and St. Martin. Minister Schwengel and at that time it was Minister Siegfried Victorino, and then replaced by Minister Camila Romer. And then in between came elections in Aruba, Hurricane Irma, and then elections in St. Martin. And so actually we were supposed to have our next cooperative meeting in St. Martin in October of 2017, but obviously those plans were disrupted by Hurricane Irma. So we've made quite some effort to restart that cooperation process, and I'm happy to report that the cooperation is back stronger than ever. I think we're very positive that we have a good, stable group for now. So we had meetings in Curaçao. That's Minister Camila Romer, Minister Odeberg from Aruba, and State Secretary Blockhouse representing the Bess Islands. We did sign an interministerial cooperation agreement, and the focus is the focus that it has always been. There's finite resources for our healthcare system, as our Minister of Finance knows very well, and that means we need to manage our resources as effectively as possible. That's not only our financial resources, but also our human capital, our human resources, to make sure that professionals have access to training, and also that we can find specialists with the appropriate qualifications to work here, and that we work on improving quality of care, and that also includes our supervision or our inspectorate process. And I've been a firm believer in cooperation, that sharing best and worst practices is the best way to learn going forward. Aruba and Curaçao, for example, have gone through many of the things that we are in the process of going through, and St. Martin as well. We've done things that Aruba and Curaçao haven't. So it gives us an opportunity to learn from each other and share what our lessons learned are. But in particular, we're working on national health reform. St. Martin, as you know, we're working on our St. Martin BIC. We're looking at how we can bring down our costs for prescription drugs. These are things that they've already done in Aruba and Curaçao, and so we're modeling our approach after theirs, and I think improving on what they've done, learning from the lessons that they've learned. Quality of care, prevention, and very happy that Aruba, Curaçao, and St. Martin have all agreed to work towards JCI accreditation for their hospitals. The Bess Islands have not agreed to that as of yet, but they're taking it under consideration. Certainly agree that they would use at least comparable standards, if not higher standards, or European standards. But in terms of Aruba, Curaçao, and St. Martin sharing the goal of achieving JCI accreditation also makes it easier for us to share protocols, inspectors, consultants. All of that is much more accessible by the fact that we've agreed to all work towards the same standards. So some highlights of the agreement that was signed, the conclusions from the ministerial conference include, number one, implementation of the international health regulations, that each of the countries is going to work towards supporting each other in terms of implementation as well as legislation. St. Martin actually is further ahead, and we've agreed that Aruba and Curacao actually would use the ordinance from St. Martin as their departure point. Holland has actually also agreed to make a legislative lawyer available to assist with the drafting of legislation, and in particular working towards a joint development and implementation aimed at the prevention of public health emergencies of international concern. So we're talking about, large-scale sort of, besides the chikungunya, dengue, Zika, but any sort of larger, more serious diseases as well that may cross borders. So in terms of how we can cooperate in particular on those topics as well. Topic number 2, preparation for and cooperation in terms of crisis and disasters in the region. I think that goes without saying that St. Martin has taken the lead in terms of establishing a work group to support and develop how the healthcare institutions in the kingdom can assist each other in times of crisis or disasters. Preventative care, this has been a big focus, and especially as we're looking at how do we control our healthcare costs. The old saying is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and certainly that's something that I believe in. So we're looking at, how do we improve health or incentivize people maintaining healthy lifestyles, that they participate in sports and exercise, food safety, and also primary health care, especially targeted towards youth. All the countries are looking at agreements in terms of what they can do to prevent an overconsumption of alcohol, tobacco, and we, of course, are also looking at sugar drinks, so there's cooperation between us, whether it's some sort of fee, taxation. That's one of the things that St. Martin is looking at, is can we put some sort of a tax basically on alcohol, tobacco, and sugar drinks. So these are lively discussions about how do we tackle the overconsumption of these products, as well as a focus on mental health care, social, emotional care, addiction care, child abuse, and care for children in general. Topic 4, curative health care. Cooperation, as I mentioned, between the hospitals, but also our health insurance agencies and their inspectorates. And also, how can we synchronize and again learn from each other in terms of our referrals abroad? Who's had better experiences with which country, with which hospitals? Can we negotiate our prices in bulk so that we can try and keep our fees lower? And of course, as I mentioned, prescription drugs. Care professionals. Every island is facing challenges in terms of being able to provide a sufficient number of quality healthcare professionals. And so this is, again, a concern between all of the islands in terms of how do we make sure that we're bringing in the numbers and qualities of specialists that we need per country. And in particular, we're looking at our St. Martin BIC, and we're looking at how do we assess the foreign diplomas. And this is an area where St. Martin and the Netherlands are looking at cooperating, that the CIBG may be able to assist us with evaluating some of these foreign diplomas to make sure that they're transferable or equivalent to the diplomas that we require here for St. Martin. And of course, data exchange. Having proper data to make decisions or evidenced policy making is critical. All of us struggle with finding quality data, and again, this is an area that we're looking to cooperate with each other. My personal belief is that we ought to be working towards a dashboard, as I like to refer to it, between health insurance companies, hospitals, that we can start comparing and benchmarking statistics against each other to get a better idea of how the individual institutions are performing. The last topic I'm going to touch on just briefly is in our Council of Ministers meeting yesterday, we did pass the policy for project-based work permits. So as I've elaborated in the past, we were working on a policy to make it easier for project-based reconstruction workers to go through an expedited work permitting process. And so, as I've mentioned in the past, what that includes is that we will waive the requirement to advertise and wait the 5 weeks before you can submit the vacancy, and that we will try and give an answer within 2 weeks. We're also going a little bit lighter in terms of the evaluation process of the criteria for the workers. Again, it's based on the fact that you're coming in for a one-time permit for a project, maximum of 3 years, after which you will be required to leave the island. This is being done in conjunction with the Ministry of Justice to ensure that the people, once their term is expired or once the project has completed, that they do leave the island. And we will hold the employers responsible for that as well. And of course, everyone has to pay their social premiums, their taxes, etc. So with that said, we certainly recognize that there's a need for construction workers, and I must say that that need has not been reflected in the work permit requests that we've received to date. We are facilitating the process in terms of being able to get work permits for the reconstruction process, and it is the intention of the ministry to ramp up compliance efforts from the ministry, because I believe that now we're facilitating the process of people getting work permits, so there's no reason for them not to have work permits and no reason for them not to contribute to our financial coffers. And so I suggest that everyone takes advantage of this. The policy will be published in the newspaper. Take advantage of it, get your people permitted, get their documents in place, and make sure you're compliant.
Thank you, Minister Lee, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport, and Telecommunication, the Honorable Stuart Johnson, to address you. Minister Johnson.
It is my congratulatory appreciation to thank each and every one of you that have extended words of congratulations to me, whether via social media or personally, to be here as your Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transportation, and Telecommunications. This ministry definitely will embark upon ensuring that our airport is fully operational. A part of that vision and our priority areas includes the finalization of the U.S. pre-clearance. Of course, that is an ongoing process which will be in the final stages as we continue to get the airport fully operational. In addition to that, I've already started to meet with key stakeholders in the hotel industry. Just this morning, I had a meeting with Mr. Ricardo Perez and Mincha Brown of the Oyster Bay Resort with my staff and I. We had a wonderful meeting. We were able to hear directly from the hoteliers what they are experiencing and how we as government can reach out to them. So those meetings with small and large hotels will continue throughout the course of the coming weeks. Similarly, I have been able to meet with the SG of my ministry as well as some of the department heads that fall directly under my ministry. Those introductory meetings will also continue with staff from my ministry. A part of the ongoing stakeholder introductory meetings that will take place that I will focus on is as well to meet with the Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Association, the Small Hotel Association. I will be able to also meet in the coming weeks the SHTA. I also have planned meetings with the small and large hotels. I believe that's important that while we are able as a tourist ministry to promote St. Martin abroad, a lot of our concerns, a lot of our issues are local. And for this ministry, that is going to be the focus of the coming weeks and months ahead, that we are able to touch base with key stakeholders, hear directly from them how government can be a support, a listening ear, and you can be rest assured that this ministry, under my leadership, will ensure that TIAT, the Ministry of TIAT, will continue to reach out to key stakeholders. A part of that ongoing process of me being able to reach out as minister is also to reach across the table with my colleague minister, Minister Gittison, who will also, with me, ensure that we're able to not only look at cleaning up the destination, because indeed St. Martin as a destination needs to be cleaned up, but that we focus on the lagoon and coastal waters of our island. That's imperative that we focus on those areas. In addition to that, as you know, I would like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to the St. Martin Carnival Development Foundation for their words of congratulations to me via media, as well as to the Winair airline that also extended their congratulations to me. I will also be meeting within the coming week with the board of the St. Martin Carnival Development Foundation. The people of St. Martin knows how passionate I am about Carnival and ensuring that our Carnival celebrations for the 50th anniversary is top on the agenda. In the coming weeks, you'll also be apprised of a forum that is going to be held with the St. Martin Tourist Office and other stakeholders, as well as with my colleague Minister of Education, other plans that will be unveiled. But again, I would like to thank the people of St. Martin for your confidence in this administration that has now taken office, your confidence in me as your minister in charge of TIAT, and of course I look forward to the public-private partnerships that this ministry will be fostering in the coming days, weeks, and months ahead.
Thank you, Minister Johnson, for your opening remarks. At this time, I invite the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Perry Heerlings, to address you. Minister Heerlings.
It is an honor to be able to stand in front of you as your new Minister of Finance. Many of you who know me, I'm very passionate about the advancement of St. Martin and its people. And I feel very blessed that I am able to represent the people and country in my position as Minister of Finance. As we all know, St. Martin is in a predicament where the financial coffers are concerned. We have an immense task ahead of us, but I'm quite positive that we will be able to continue to provide for country and people, and that we will be able to continue find the proper, adequate and sustainable solutions to move forward towards the future. Our governing program is entitled that we will progress for a sustainable and work for a sustainable St. Martin, and that's exactly what myself and our colleagues will be standing for the next 4 years. Members of the press, I can inform you that where my predecessor, former Minister of Finance, Mike Ferrier, left off, I will continue with the baton that he left for me. A very passionate, outspoken minister, and I will try to at least be his match in this journey that we are undertaking right now. My first day in office was quite busy, I must say. I mean, we had the swearing in and the reception, but in the afternoon I had my first meeting with the CFT that is present on the island. I believe they're leaving tomorrow. During that meeting, the meeting was called for at least to meet one another, but also to streamline our ideas. Before the meeting, I made sure that my ministry had a letter ready explaining and elucidating my vision for the Ministry of Finance and St. Martin, and how I see the working relationship between the country and the CFT. I think they were quite pleasantly surprised to find the letter in their email, because usually they make sure that they have their first letter to our ministers before we can even take a good breath in our office. But the meeting was complicated, quite extended, it was long, but fruitful. But I will go into more details a little later on. I would like to share with you some of the visions and issues that I would like to tackle as the Minister of Finance. My theme for this period is that we should be able to achieve more with less. The situation that we have at hand in St. Martin actually gives us a wonderful opportunity to kind of revisit our abilities and capabilities. That means that we all understand that right now it is not business as usual, even though you come across people, organizations that still think that it's business as usual. If you look outside, and it really looks like, you know, nothing happened. But the reality of the matter is that we have serious problems at hand. So my main focus for the first coming weeks and months will be that we will deliver the budget 2019 on time, and that means before September 1st of this year. I will also be very firm on that we commit, or that we comply with the commitments that we had in the past through the CFT and what we agreed within the Kingdom on the financial reporting and our fiscal policies, but also the overall financial management of Country St. Martin. I think it's about time that we take this very serious, because of two things. First of all, we want our country to be proper managed, and we would like to stop hearing that St. Martin is never ready, St. Martin is not doing what they're supposed to do. I think we have the opportunity to show what we can do. And it is my intention to make sure that my ministry will perform at their utmost. That would mean that, you see, on one hand, we are busy rebuilding Country St. Martin. We are busy reconstructing the country. But some of the components that we really need is a well-established tax department. So that means that we will need to do some serious investments in our tax department on the human resources side, but definitely on the tax system, and also on the system that we use to make sure that we reach out to the people who are our taxpayers. We have to make paying taxes, or at least filing your tax returns, more easier than it is right now. That means that our IT system should and will be upgraded. The accessibility to the tax department should be made easier, and that will result in a better compliance at a certain point, and hopefully very soon. On the other hand, as a Minister of Finance, you have to look at cost-cutting measures, but that's only one part of bringing your budget back up to the strength that you need. We will also need to look at how to increase our revenues. Right now, we are researching and studying a across-the-board financial recovery plan, which I hope to be able to share with you in the coming weeks. Give me 3 to 4 weeks. Because I believe that besides all kind of tax measures that you could think of, we should also seriously look within our organization where and how we can cut our expenditures. So we have, I believe the Prime Minister in her inaugurational speech made mention of it already. I think that we should carry the responsibility as ministers, but we should share it also with our SGs, department heads, and our workforce, the civil servants who are very instrumental in bringing St. Martin back where it's supposed to be. So the responsibility that we would like to bestow on them is that they will have to look within their own organization where we can cut the cost. And cutting cost is not only looking at how you spend your money, but also are we efficiently working with the tools that we have. And the tools are not only physical tools, but it's also the human resources part. Do we have the right people on the right place? You know, those are serious questions that we need to ask ourselves if we really want to advance and make this reconstruction of St. Martin work. Then, of course, what I will also look at is our government-owned companies, and there's much said about those, but I believe that the past governments could have acted in a better way as the ultimate shareholders of those companies. And it is my intention that we will do just that. Act as a real shareholder. Make sure that you're on top of things. Things cannot go out of hand, and you are being confronted as a government later on in the process. We have boards that are supposed to supervise our companies, and I think in connection and in collaboration with my colleagues, we will closely look at how the boards are functioning, because at a certain point, the government-owned companies have to pay their dues as well. Now, I can go on and on where measures are concerned, but as a Minister of Finance, you also have to look at ways and means and incentives towards the business community and to the people of St. Martin. We are studying possibilities where taxation is concerned. I'm a believer in lowering the income tax and also the profit tax, but at the same time, compliance will be key in succeeding in this trajectory. That means, and the reality shows that a lot of companies are out of business because of Irma, but we also notice that a lot of companies out there do not apply good governance in their company. That means that if you are taking part in our economy, you have to contribute like everybody else. And that means not only paying your taxes, but make sure that your company is well organized. So where the government and the Ministry of Finance will be looking into tax incentives, at the same time, we will also be very stringent in asking the business community to comply with rules and laws of proper governing their companies and the compliance towards the tax department. In closing, there's one major issue that we have, and that is our economy. Our major hotels are still down. They are doing their utmost to start reconstruction. And I believe that it's the task of the government, in close cooperation with these companies and hotel companies, to get them up and running as soon as possible. Because in a recently provided analysis from the IMF, it was clearly or made clear to us that the situation that we have at hand can be curbed, within a year or two. But provided that our airport and our hotels are open ASAP. So our focus with the Minister of Fiat and my ministry and all other related ministries, our focus will be to do just that, and make sure that that happens as sooner or later. We will have these discussions, I guess, in the coming weeks with you, the press corps. But that is one of the most important things, to get everything up and running again. And then finally, I had a meeting with the CFT based on a request that the former Minister Mike Ferrier made to the CFT and also to the Kingdom government for liquidity support. Yesterday, or the day before yesterday, we received an advice from the CFT on that, and that looks quite positive. This advice will be addressed in the upcoming Kingdom Council of Ministers of July 6th. So around that time, I will be able to inform you more about what is coming forward, but I'm very positive in the outcome of that. And then I would like to extend my my gratitude to the former Minister Michael Ferrier for a job well done and allowing me to wet my feet even when I was not formally appointed as Minister of Finance. It showed the team spirit that we have amongst ourselves to make sure that we can hit the ground running and make a well-informed decisions on your first day in office. But I also would like to thank our departing member in the CFT, Mrs. Maria Plans, for a job well done. She was a trusted, well-informed, and qualified member of the CFT for and on behalf of St. Martin. She was very valuable towards us in our cooperation and collaboration with the CFT, and we are very grateful and thankful to her. She is moving on to become a member of the Kingdom Council of State in The Hague, a very prestigious function, but I'm sure that she will be able to continue well representing St. Martin in that council. And lastly, Mrs. Sibylle Dekker, also a departing member of the CFT, with her heart in the Caribbean part of the kingdom. Very eloquent lady. It was very easy to work with her, very understanding. And she pledged that she will continue supporting St. Martin and finding ways and means in The Hague to help us out. And to Ms. Dekker, also thank you very much for what you have meant for St. Martin. And that is all I have to report to you at this moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Heerlings, for your opening remarks. At this time, I would like to re-invite the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, the Honorable Wycliffe Smith, to address you. Minister Smith.
I'd like to mention at this time that the Honorable Minister of Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, known to us as VROMI, the Honorable Miklos Gitterson, that he is off island attending meetings on behalf of the country in the Dominican Republic. Also, I'd like to indicate to you that besides us, the council here locally, Council of Ministers locally, two other persons were appointed, and they were appointed to the Ministry Plenipotentiary in The Hague. That is the Honorable Minister of Plenipotentiary, Miss Jorien Wuiten, and the Honorable Acting Minister Plenipotentiary, Mr. Michel Sommersol, and they both will be leaving soon to go to The Hague to take up their duties there. As Minister Lee said earlier, we had our first council meeting yesterday, and it was a very amicable one. I sense the team spirit, cooperation. It was ably chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, and I'm really looking forward to be a part of this team so that in the next 4 years we can deliver what we have promised in the governing program. My specific portfolio is that of education, culture, youth, and sports, and I will be focusing on each of the sectors in that ministry. And those sectors are education, study financing, and several others, which I'll mention a bit later on. But someone pointed out to me that I'm the first male Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports. And so I heard that in the department, some of the staff were wondering how it will be to work with a male Minister of Education. And I can assure them that like my female predecessors, and they are Dr. Rhoda Arundel, Mrs. Patricia Lawrence, Mrs. Rita Bourne Gums, and Miss Sylveria Jacobs, I too want to see the ministry excel in terms of quality and service to our students and to the people of St. Martin. We know that education is the largest ministry In terms of finances, it carries more than a quarter of the budget, of the total budget of St. Martin, and I hope that my colleague Minister of Finance will make sure that we are able to maintain that budget. And also in terms of staffing, it's the largest. There are 290 civil servants working in the ministry, and 207 working in public education. So that's pretty large. However, I would like, together with the staff of the ministry, to give a little more attention in the coming 4 years to the sectors culture, youth, and sports. I would like to let you know that yesterday I had the opportunity to visit the majority of the divisions, just to introduce myself and to introduce the current staff of the cabinet, which consists of 2 persons at this time, Mr. Peter J. Gittens and the secretary, Michnella Eugenio. On my rounds, I saw many new faces, I saw many young faces, and I saw many old faces. By that I mean many persons with whom I had worked several years ago in the Department of Education. And I must say that as I moved around the divisions and the departments and the sectors, I sense enthusiasm amongst the staff, and I'm sure that together with the staff of the ministry, we're going to be able to move education, culture, youth, and sports forward to the benefit of the students, to the benefit of our youth, and to the benefit of the people of St. Martin. Today I hope to pass and visit 2 other divisions that I didn't get to visit today. And on Friday, God Spares Life, I will have the opportunity to meet with all the teachers working in public education at their retreat for public school teachers. I would like to say to the press and to the public that if you're interested in what this government plans to do in the next 4 years, please go to the government's website and read the governing program, and you're also able to download it there. The coalition has tried to make this governing program as practical and as realistic as possible. The governing program is aligned to the, by now you know, the well-known National Resilience and Recovery Plan. And so what all the ministries, including education, culture, youth, and sports, will be focusing on is on the reconstruction or on the rebuilding of St. Martin. All the ministries, including education, culture, youth, and sports, have to deal with the day-to-day operations, as my colleague, Minister of Finance, said, and at the same time, handle the reconstruction, rebuilding efforts in order to rebuild St. Martin back to being a better St. Martin than it was even before Hurricane Irma. So the most urgent priority for me as Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports will be the urgent repairs of the schools in preparation for the new school year, and also in preparation for the peak of the hurricane season, which is usually the latter part of the season. I would also like to thank my colleague, former Minister of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports, Ms. Jorien Wuiten, for her hard work and her commitment during the interim period of the last 4 months. I commend her, I salute her, and thank her for a job well done. I wish her well as she takes up her new assignment in The Hague as Minister Plenipotentiary. Before closing, I would like to inform you of 2 upcoming events taking place on Emancipation Day, this coming Sunday, July 1st. It's a day, as you know, Emancipation Day, that we set aside to commemorate the period of slavery here on St. Martin. In 1863, the slaves of St. Martin were officially freed by the Netherlands, and this was actually 15 years after the abolition of slavery on the French side. This year's commemoration, so this Sunday, the Department of Culture has organized a very unique celebration or commemoration. It's entitled The Water Remembers. Slaves were brought from Africa to the Caribbean, to St. Martin, on ships that plied the Atlantic waters. So you can see that the ocean, the water, played a very significant role in the emancipation story. So the water was the means by which the slave industry was perpetuated. Living on islands in such close proximity, slaves often escaped to the neighboring islands. And again, we see the role that the ocean and the water played in the lives of the slaves. The Water Remembers is to honor the slaves that were sold in captivity and all the innocent ones who were kidnapped and brought to the New World by means of the horrendous Middle Passage. This is a very unique commemoration, and I'm sure you don't want to miss it. It starts at dawn, so at 5:15 a.m., and it will last until 7:30 a.m. There will be drums, dance, song, poetry, and prayer. And I want to encourage parents to come and to also bring their children. Bring them out to witness and experience this very unique emancipation celebration. There's no school on Sundays, so parents, you have no excuse to wake up your children early and get them out for 5:15 so that they can witness and also experience The Water Remembers. And it ends at 7:30, so if you still would like to go to church, you're still able to do that. The following day, Monday, July 2nd, is a public holiday, so you and your children have the opportunity to rest and catch up if you need to catch up on your sleep because you woke up so early. I would like to say thanks to Ms. Clara Reyes, head of the Department of Culture, and her staff for organizing such a unique Emancipation Day commemoration this year, entitled The Water Remembers, from 5:15 to 7:30 at the Captain Hodges Pier in Phillipsburg this Emancipation Day. The second activity on Emancipation Day in the afternoon is an event that is organized by the Voices Foundation, and they're hosting their annual cultural ancestral activity. This year's activity is entitled A Day of Appreciation, Honor, and Respect. And this event takes place at the Emilia Wilson Park from 3 to 4:30 in the afternoon. So remember these two Emancipation Day commemorative moments: a day of appreciation, honor, and respect at 3, ending around 4 in the afternoon, and The Water Remembers, organized by the Department of Culture, which takes place on Emancipation Day, Sunday, July 1st, starting at 5:15. I'm looking forward to working with all the people in the ministry and to serve wherever I can to make education, culture, youth, and sports a better ministry and to improve it. So that's all for now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Minister Smith, for your opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you are watching the live Council of Ministers press briefing. Thank you for joining us. We now go over to the question and answer session. However, unfortunately, due to time constraints, we will only have one round of questions. Alita Singh of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Question is for the Minister of Finance. You mentioned in your opening statement that you're going to continue the work of former Minister Ferrier. One of the things you have mentioned, though, that is a little bit either building on or contradictory to, is that before leaving office, Minister Ferrier and the Council of Ministers, the former one, approved a package of measures for 34 measures, cost-cutting measures, and now you've said in your opening statements that you're going to look for even more. Do you feel that that package of measures didn't go far enough, or do you yourself feel or see things that are not reflected there?
Yes, those cost-cutting measures were approved in the COM. That still needs to be processed towards implementation. But what I was referring to, maybe there's where the confusion occurred, is that besides those very physical measures, you can also look at measures within your organization, and that those have to do with more efficiency. You know, how do you make use of the government's cars? How do you purchase your goods? You know, those are very there's a lot of things that you could do and a lot of things that you could achieve with that. So you have to think in those type of measures. It's just to make the apparatus, the government apparatus, more efficient in their performance. Because I believe that if you take a serious look at that not only the logistics of everything that we are doing, but it will enhance the performance by departments, but also the personnel by itself. I said it is achieving more with less. You know, we all know that we have workhorses and we have those who take everything for granted. And it's time that we seriously take a look at that as well. You know, we know that we have people on the payroll who do not show up for work or who are not placed in a function. Those are all measures that we can take and we must take to make sure that we are not spending money that we cannot account for. I have a job to do and I can be held accountable, and that's the job that we are going to do. And definitely it is not my intention to burden the people further with all kind of other measures or things, but it's all about efficiency. And take decisive measures, because entering into this building, you know, you already come across, yes, these are decisions that are there for years, nobody dares to take it. Well, it's about time that we start taking those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Heerlings. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and to the new and old ministers. Question to Minister Johnson. I believe you plan to hit the road running. There have been an ongoing court case with Nagico and the airport. Presently, as we speak, there are construction work taking place at the airport. The monies that Nagico owed to the airport, has it affecting the progress of the airport?
Well, Lyndon, thank you for your question. Of course, St. Martin is very eager to hear from the ministry what is our projection, what is our answer on this. And of course, ideal for the ministry itself is that the settlement comes out of court, that we don't continue to drag on this process. You know, court has given its ruling. It's in a grace period now where a decision can be taken. And it is my hope as minister in charge of TIAT that that decision can be taken outside of court. So indeed, a wonderful question. And I do hope that that can come to a more positive outcome sooner than later.
Nagico said that there was no, the analysis, the estimate of the damage at the airport was not according to procedure. There wasn't any official person to estimate the amount. It did not happen.
Again, when you bring persons to the table, all stakeholders, and in the coming day, I will be meeting with the airport in an introductory meeting, so I look forward to that meeting as well. And again, like I said, the ministry is extremely hopeful that this can be settled without dragging on the process through the courts.
Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, and online viewers, this brings us to the end of the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. For rebroadcast, tune in every evening at 7 p.m. on St. Martin Cable TV. For video on demand, log on to the official government's website at www.stmartingov.org. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I'm Roleika Roach, and do have a pleasant day.